Now, the EU has agreed to authorize fresh sanctions on Belarus. This over claims the regime of Alexander Lukashenko was pushing migrants towards the border with Poland. Now, Belarus has denied that accusation and labeled it absurd. The German Chancellor Angela Merkel, meanwhile, spoke to Lukashenko on Monday, the pair discussing aid for refugees and migrants. Now, for more on this story, we can bring in Pavel Slonkin, a visiting fellow at the European Council on Foreign Relations, as well as a former Belarusian diplomat. Thank you very much for joining us here on France 24. I want to start out with a tweet which you put out yesterday, where you had a picture of Angela Merkel with the Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko, and you said, if one could imagine the worst way of solving the migrant crisis at the Belarusian and Polish border, this would be discussing it with Lukashenko. Now, Belarus denies that it's engineering this crisis, but why do you think they have engineered it?
Because Lukashenko promised it after the fourth package of sanctions. Remember the incident of Ryanair, when the fourth package of sanctions by the European Union was imposed against Belarus. And Lukashenko promised that, okay, if you're imposing sanctions on me, then I will be organizing the problems on your border to put a blind eye on this illegal migration. So he just fulfilled the promise. And since that, Belarusian government has been organizing all the crises. They opened air flights from Middle East countries, especially from Iraq. Every day, hundreds of people are flying to Belarus, and then they are guided by special services, by officers to the border of Belarus and let them pass easily. So it's pretty obvious that it is all done by the hands of Lukashenko.
Now, the European Union has agreed to authorize fresh sanctions on Belarus, and Belarus once again says they will respond to those fresh sanctions. How do you imagine they will, considering this is already playing out right now?
It depends what sanctions we will see, because after the Ryanair incident, we have seen the hardest, the toughest in the history package of sanctions, which took the sectors of Belarusian economy. And now, from what I know, the European Union is talking about sanctions against entities and personalities who are involved directly in organizing this migration crisis. So even if such an aggressive action on the border could not provoke a sectorial sanctions against the EU. So what it could really provoke? What could really provoke these sectorial sanctions? So, and it will also depend on their progress in these talks that has yesterday started between Merkel and Lukashenko. They promised each other to talk again. Lukashenko shared his proposal with Merkel, and he's now waiting until she responds.
Now, you say that dialogue is not the best way to solve this current conflict that's unfolding. So how should Europeans try and solve it if not dialogue?
My opinion is that Lukashenko, by orchestrating artificially this migration crisis, he followed three main goals. To start the dialogue, to make the EU start the dialogue with him. To switch the topic and the Belarusian EU agenda from new elections, stopping repressions and releasing of political prisoners, to this artificial crisis on the border. And the third one would be making the EU concessions to the Belarusian ruler. So this is what is he having right now. We don't see any real sanctions just now. I already mentioned that sectorial sanctions are not being planned to be imposed. And Merkel started this dialogue with Lukashenko. So Lukashenko just thinks that his actions were rational, and he, at least partly he achieved these goals. So I don't think that without talking to Lukashenko on the language that he understands, and usually territorial leaders, they don't understand language of hard language, like Putin. He never crosses the red lines with Putin because Putin knows how to talk to such guys as Lukashenko. And the EU has already showed that it can be blackmailed, and it agrees with being blackmailed, and is ready to talk to the leader who they call illegitimate.
Should the European Union be dialoguing more with Russian President Vladimir Putin instead of Lukashenko directly, considering Lukashenko will listen to what Putin has to say?
Yes, I think that Russia could be possibly involved in solution of the crisis, though I don't believe that Russia will be helping somehow to promote border control or on the borders of the European Union. I would say it's more on the EU side. how you decided, how strong your answer is to such actions by Lukashenko. Lukashenko was stimulated by the actions of Erdogan or Morocco's government against Spain. He saw that EU can be blackmailed and you can force EU to make concessions if you weaponize migrants. And the EU is just now repeating its mistake. It's once again agrees to be blackmailed.
Just finally, I have this question because the U.S. State Department seems to suggest that this whole Belarus situation on the border with Poland is a smokescreen for Russia's military moves on Ukraine. Moscow, of course, denies this. What's your assessment on that?
No, I don't really think so. I would divide these two options. I think Ukraine and Russia relations are on the side of this bilateral crisis between Belarus and the EU. So I don't think that Russia is really hiding this Ukrainian operation against Ukraine by this migrants crisis.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it there. Pavel Slunkin, thank you very much for joining us on the program today.
Thank you. Bye-bye.